Like, she kind of comes off as entitled to be paid for.
It's kind of immature too, to be honest.
Please tell me, am I the a-hole?
Thanks for tuning into the show, Honey Hearts. I'm V.
And I'm Sandra.
Here we discuss stories that are sometimes heartwarming, but sometimes heartbreaking. Dating can be hard. There are a lot of questions when it comes to dating, but today we're going to start with an age-old one. Who should pay for the first date? So our first story is from Am I the A-hole subreddit. Am I the a-hole for not paying for my date? So me, 26 male, and Kyla, ooh, we have a name drop, 24 female, match on a dating app. We messaged a few times, but nothing really happened from it. Couple months later, we see each other at a mutual friend's wedding. We talk most of the night and have a great time. I ask for Kyla's number from our mutual friend. We text for a few weeks and eventually make plans to meet. We have plans to meet for drinks and she cancels last minute. Basically 10 minutes before we're set to meet for dinner, Kyla tells me something came up and she can't make it. I tell Kyla it's fine and she starts taking longer to text, is shorter and less engaged. Eventually, Kyla quits responding and I move on. A week later, she calls to apologize and asks if we can meet up again. I agree only because my friend's new wife convinced me. Date comes and it started off rocky. Kyla showed up late saying traffic was bad. She brought up her past relationships constantly and it made me uncomfortable. She did apologize for canceling the first date, saying she was nervous. She also had multiple drinks and a shot. I only had 2 drinks. She was also on her phone, not the whole date, but enough for me to notice. Things weren't going well and conversation was stiff. When the bill comes, they ask how we're doing it and I say split it. Kyla looks at me and says, I didn't actually bring my wallet. At this point, I'm just done and say, I'm sorry, but I'm not paying and I don't think this is going to work. I paid my bill and left while Kyla sat there. My friend's wife calls me that night, yelling at me, calling me an a-hole. I guess Kyla's sister had to come bring her money. I've been called an a-hole by some of the friend group. Am I the a-hole?
Why didn't she bring her wallet? That's the first thing that came into my mind.
I want to give her benefit of the doubt and say, maybe she really did forget her wallet. But with this track record that I'm hearing, I'm a little unconvinced.
So, I'm just thinking, did she purposely leave her wallet at home?
I think that's a big possibility. Because it seems like throughout this whole exchange, they were supposed to go on a date initially. Then she cancels last minute, right before they're supposed to go. And then she stops responding, kind of ghost OP a little bit. So it seems like Kyla has a track record of doing this. Like she commits to the first date and then she canceled 10 minutes before. Okay. And then she kind of ghosts OP, but then asks OP to meet up again, only to be late again. And then go on her phone and be really unengaged during the date. I think all in all, I know they're practically strangers in a sense, right? This is supposed to be the first date. You usually want to make a good first impression. But it feels like there is a lack of consideration on Kyla's part. I mean, really?
I think that her actions so far has been pretty rude, to be honest, with no courtesy to OP. I feel like it's more like entitlement in a way. Did she feel like she kind of comes off as entitled to be paid for? But in reality, they are basically strangers.
Mm-hmm.
He has no obligation to pay for her, and it's not something that you should expect right off the bat.
I think it goes even beyond the financial aspect of entitlement because it seems like she will make appointments and agree to them with OP, but then wait until the very last minute, to say, oh, I can't make it. Or even when she showed up late to a date that she apologized for and is setting up with OP. Like she's inviting him out for that kind of second run through of the first date. She doesn't take accountability. She just says, oh, it's traffic. Just drinking a lot. And then kind of just makes the assumption that by saying, oh, didn't bring my wallet, I guess she expected OP to pay. I think it's
Mm-hmm.
just her actions just scream entitlement in the sense of she doesn't need to be as considerate of OP as OP is of for her.
I'm also assuming that she at least has her phone on her, right? You can Venmo.
Right. There's
You
so many avenues for that now.
right, like she could have asked OP to pay and that she would Venmo him back, offer to Venmo him back,
Hmm.
and then maybe that might prompt him to, like, oh well, maybe he did enjoy some part of the date and he might, say like, oh no, I got it or something. I'm not sure how exactly the date went or what they felt from the date,
Hmm.
but it just seems like she just expected him to pay and then when he didn't, instead of feeling embarrassed, she just was upset. And then that, came back to backfire on him, but not for the right reasons. I think he could have offered a solution instead of just leaving, but
Hmm.
like he could have been the one to bring up Venmo or Zelle or, whatever. In a way, I don't think he needed to leave her high and dry,
Yeah.
right? But at the end of the day, it's her responsibility to pay for her food
Yeah.
unless offered otherwise.
I think I would be, I would usually say that it's a little bit too far to just leave her there without any sense of, oh, like offering to do something differently. But I think at this point, OP sounds like he was just fed up.
He was over it.
Yeah. And I think it's even worse that Kyla, the OP's date, seemed to have told their mutual friends because then their mutual friends called OP up to yell at him, which I don't think is right either because I'm like, why is someone else yelling at OP for a first date in which he didn't want to
I
pay?
don't think it should have gotten that far. You can be upset, but I don't think you should expect others to back you up on this because it's your
No.
responsibility to pay for yourself.
It's kind of immature too, to be honest.
It is.
Because, I mean, you've been rude repeatedly to someone and you apologize and you ask them out on a date. So they go to the date that you are again late for. And then you forget your wallet.
Honestly, if that was the history of her behavior, she should have been the one to offer to pay for it.
Yeah.
Like to make up for her lateness, her cancellations. At this point, OP kind of jumped through hoops to just like tolerate,
Hmm.
her behavior and just like still show up to this date. He probably didn't even want to come to this date.
Yeah. I feel like, we hear a lot. I think it's kind of like the traditional that we hear a lot that, the gentleman pays on the first date, things like that, right? But I honestly think with today's time, right, it's very nice of anyone in the date offer to
Mm-hmm.
pay. I think it's a very nice and kind
With
gesture.
how expensive everything is nowadays.
Yeah.
Yeah, even the cost of eggs is so expensive. Can you imagine just having someone expect you to pay for their meal?
Oh my gosh, for sure. And even then, I think the easiest thing, I think common courtesy would be whoever invites the other person out,
Mm-hmm.
if anyone's offering to cover for the date, should be that person who's doing the inviting.
I think when you're going into a date, it is nice when one does offer to treat
Hmm.
the other. That's totally fine. But bring your wallet just in case that is not happening. Just bring your wallet. Don't have any expectations on being paid for.
Yeah.
If it happens, it's great,
Yeah.
but that shouldn't be an expectation of the other party. It's not fair.
Yeah. And if anything, she had her phone. Kyla here had her phone.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, if she can call her sister to come and pick up her wallet, then why wasn't that the first option? Instead of pinning an OP and just saying,
Mm-hmm.
well, I didn't bring my wallet.
And so she called her sister to bring her wallet. It's paid for. Why go around and complain?
Right. For a date that you asked someone out on. Like, I don't know. It's just, I agree with you. It's Skin's entitlement.
I say not the a-hole on OP's part.
Same. I don't think OP is the a-hole here.
I also think that the friends or is it friends?
Yeah.
Who are
mutual
coming
friends, yeah.
back at OP? I think they are the a-hole too. I think they are part of
Right.
the a-hole.
Like, I don't know. Maybe they're not fed the whole story and they just heard, oh, we went on a date and he left me there. So maybe that would justify some
I
form of
think
reaction.
if that's how they heard
Yeah.
it, I can see why. But I think in that case, OP needs to tell them his
Right.
version of the story.
So I'm looking at the comments. One of the comments says, not the a-hole. Nobody should show up to a date without money to pay for their fair share.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. That's what we
Exactly.
said. And someone said, and a 24-year-old didn't bring their ID to get drinks, and she drove there with no wallet or driver's license. Either she lied and she did bring it, or she very intentionally did not bring it. That's a valid point.
It could
They were
be a
drinking.
lie.
Yeah.
It could be a lie. You
Yep.
don't know.
Because she's drinking, but she doesn't bring ID.
Mm.
And she's driving without any form of, I assume, driver's license. Because usually that's in a wallet. That sounds dangerous.
I can see why OP did not enjoy the date. If that is the character of his date.
Yep. I feel like we're definitely in agreement with the comments here. I'm declaring OP not the a-hole.
Not the a-hole. Well, not paying for a date is one thing, but what about a friend?
Oof.
I think the both of us can agree that we're down to pay for a friend's lunch or to treat them to a lunch date. But what happens when it starts to feel like an obligation?
Ooh.
In the next story, we're going to see what OP does when he's put in the situation. The next story is from subreddit, Am I the A-hole? Am I the a-hole for not buying my supposedly hungry friend food?
I mean, I'm always hungry, so this is
I would buy you food.
I feel biased. I would buy you food too.
Am I the a-hole for not buying my supposedly hungry friend food? We all have at least one friend who is self-confessed, quote, not great with money. The friend who, come payday, will splash out on themselves and others, burning through cash with wanton abandon. I have not heard that phrase.
I haven't heard that in a long time.
Wanton
abandon. I love it.
But who barely a week later will claim poverty and throw themselves upon the mercy of others. I know I certainly have such a friend, and last week my patience with them snapped. Not through lack of trying to help. Myself and others have had multiple conversations with the individual trying to coax them into better spending habits, but they won't see sense. Why plan and organize a week's worth of affordable meals when you can buy something fun to keep yourself happy in the short term instead? We're a sociable group and we meet together often, usually twice a week, to chat, play games, and generally enjoy each other's company. We always meet at someone's place rather than, quote, going out, so as not to put the burden on having to afford food/drinks, etc. But we'll occasionally order food in for nibbles during game nights. Unless it's been payday week, the friend will, without fail, say they have no money and can't currently afford to eat. And week after week, someone will step up and buy food for them. This week, I told them no. I suggested I'd buy them a bag of pasta so they can feed themselves for a few days instead. They took offense at this and got upset, feeling I was calling them out in front of everyone. I feel I was simply telling them what we'd all been thinking on multiple occasions, and if it hadn't been me, it would have been someone else. So Reddit, please tell me, am I the a-hole? Or in this case, OP writes, am I the arsehole?
Well, first of all, kudos to OP because OP sounds like a writer here. There's some sass, some flair to the writing.
I know, wanton abandon.
I love it.
I think I might start using that.
Okay. I'm annoyed on OP's behalf.
Well, you're a foodie. Like, you
Yeah.
love food and...
Well, let me tell you guys something, okay? I would say both Sandra and I are foodies. Like, we do enjoy snacks. We're a fan of the culinary arts, if you want to call it. Okay?
Yes. Feed us.
But, okay, let me tell you something that really impressed me when Sandra and I first started hanging out. Sandra would come over, like, if she's coming over to hang out, like, I've never had someone come over and bring me snacks before.
Really?
Yeah.
What did I bring?
Usually as hosts, like, I feel like if someone's coming over, like, I'm the one who's providing snacks, you know? Like, I'm very used to that. But I remember first time we hung out, Sandra had brought over snacks. And she's not just bringing out, like, a package or two. You know what I mean? Well, actually, you guys don't know, but now you will know. She's bringing
what
out
did
like
I bring?
I don't remember what specifically, but some examples of things she's brought over are like cake, like a roll cake,
Mm.
cookies,
Mm.
chips. I love you saying, and these are all things you brought me.
I'm just imagining it right now.
But yeah, and so I'm like, I understand you love food. For anyone who loves food, right? I get it. You love food. But I don't think it's an excuse to put that burden and obligation on others. Like, it's a nice gesture whenever she comes over, or it's vice versa. If I'm going to come over, like, we bring each other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a nice gesture, but it shouldn't become some sort of obligation. Like, if Sandra wants to hang out, I guess Sandra's going to pay for me. I mean, I think that's just a very unreasonable and unfair burden. Especially if the other person's not consenting to that burden at all.
It seems like the friend group takes turns.
Oh,
Yeah.
like paying for each other?
So it's for paying for this one friend.
Oh,
yeah.
God, no.
So it seems like the friend is just blows their money, does not have money for food when they're all going out to eat. The friend group just takes turns paying for their meal.
Why are they enabling him or her or whoever?
I don't know.
Because if I'm to be honest, it just sounds like this whole group is funding this person's bad habits. It's not the healthiest habit for this person either. I can't imagine.
It definitely not. I actually have a similar story from my days of college.
No.
So we were all in a friend group, and at the time we were all science majors. So we're like, close because you share the bond of the struggle of being a science major. And one friend somehow had a car and always had like the latest tech and stuff, right?
Okay.
But come restaurant week, she was down to go.
Wait, can you explain what restaurant week is?
So restaurant week, well, I don't really attend restaurant week too often to be. I'm not a connoisseur of restaurant week, but restaurant week happens when it's like a week filled with more. How do I say it?
Like a set menu, like certain restaurants do, right?
like more sought after restaurants in the area, in the city, where they offer a set menu at like what would be a lower price than their typical menu. And so it's a very exciting time for college students because as a college student, you can't really afford their regular prices. She's making bread.
Mango is with us right now, so if you hear us a little distracted, it's her making bread in the background here.
But like as a college student, restaurant week is exciting because you get to try out new restaurants and try a little bit of everything at a discounted price. And so our friend group, our science friend group, we all agreed to go. So it was my first time going, and I'm like, I'm excited to go eat with my friends and try out this like new fancy restaurant. And then on the day of I was told one friend was thinking of not going because it was too expensive.
Okay.
And so for some reason, out of sheer like goodwill or whatever, one friend offered to she suggested that we all split her bill, her bill. So I think it was maybe a group of like 6 of us or so. So the 5 of us would split that one friend's bill. But as a college student, I was not making much either.
Right.
We had student debt. We all had student debt. I was making like minimum wage working at retail. So I'm sitting there. I'm just like, why am I paying for this person's meal again? Because personally, if I couldn't afford it, I just wouldn't go. I would just say, like I'll know next time to save up for the next restaurant week because it does happen more than once. And I wouldn't really expect my friend group to just pitch in. And I think the way it was worded by that friend was, I think it was like more of a woe is me. I'm so poor. Maybe I just won't go with you guys. And so, the other friend was like, well, we'll split with you. But I didn't know that until the day of. Yeah.
So you were informed when you were already
When
basically
we're like
there.
already like going, yeah. So I didn't really, I mean, I guess I could have said, oh, then I'm not going. But at that time, the peer pressure, you just feel like, oh, okay, I didn't know we were doing this, but I guess, sure. And then coming out of it, that friend pulled similar stunts over and over. And if you treated her to food, then she would just cling on to you like, oh, you're my favorite person ever, blah, blah, blah. But if you didn't, then, often she would just sulk. Like she would be sulking and sad. And they're like, why are you sad? Because I can't afford food.
That's so emotionally manipulative.
But she had a car before I did.
Oh, and then she's
driving, I think it was like a BMW or Mercedes. It was an older one, but she was driving her own car while I was taking the trolley.
I think that's so irresponsible.
I don't know. Had the latest sneakers, the latest laptop, phone, and I had my like little I don't even remember what it was called, but it wasn't a big name Android phone.
Shame on both of them.
HTC One or something.
Like, shame on the friend who's always pulling the pity act and not just being responsible. Because I know there are times where someone in a friend group honestly wouldn't be able to afford it and would just be honest and wouldn't, try to play the pity card. And they're just like, you know what, you guys have fun without me.
Yeah.
That's fine. We'll hang out another time. And the friend that decides to organize it and then not let anyone else know and kind of pressure everyone else into doing it. Oh, come on.
Because at that point, it was already decided. So it was like either I flake out or I just kind of contribute.
You're nicer than me. I would have just said,
well, no, I mean, the me now knows better. I would have set a boundary if that were to happen today. But as a student, and especially in a setting like a friend group, you just feel like, oh, I don't want to rock the boat. Yeah, I know now. I know better now, but at the time, so I do feel OP, and I think it is really big of OP to say, hey, I'm not doing it this time. And that will set the standard for next time for the rest of the group.
I think it's really nice of OP to even still offer. It's like, hey, I'll get you something else. I don't remember what the food was, pasta or something, and you can make food for the whole week.
Yeah.
I think that is way more responsible. I think it's like saying, that saying that people have, which is, give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. Teach a man a fish, you can feed him for the rest of his life. However, unfortunately, I don't think this friend is in that situation. If they're spending so much and they have, they admit to blowing all that money on other things. Right.
And it's something that can be helped. Like if the friend was in a situation where it can't be helped, that's another story. But this is, the friend has a job, the friend earns an income, the friend blows their money and expects others to pay for them. I think, because that is the situation, there's no reason for everyone else to feel like they have to make up for that.
Do the other friends, are they mad at OP, or what are the reactions to OP saying that? To saying that, yay, I'm willing to get you something else in which you can eat for a whole week rather than, instant meal. Did the friends say anything? I'm curious.
Nope, there is no update on the friend's reaction. Well, the other friend's reaction, it was just the one friend in question feels like they're being attacked in front of everyone.
But what are you being attacked about? Your own decisions? Well, if it isn't the consequence of your own actions.
Oh, dear. All right, comments say, I would say you're not the jerk. This person is spending their money without a plan and then planning on their friends to cover them. What I would do is follow the pattern. You have noticed when this person gets paid and when they are too skint before they get paid again. Too skint? I've never heard of that word.
I've heard it before, but I mean, I feel like we have some kind of more, I don't want to say archaic, more traditionally literary terms here.
Even in the comments.
Yeah.
Okay, like for example, if someone gets paid every other Friday, I would invite this person on the weeks they get paid and skip their invite when it's a skint week. There it goes again, skint week. If they want to hang out on a skint week, they have to learn how to have money so it's not a skint week.
I love this commenter. Well, here's the thing, right? I think it's funny that this commenter literally went to track the pattern. When they have money, ask them out on things. When they don't invite them to anything.
That's a very smart way to handle it
without rocking the boat.
without calling them out, you know, outwardly.
Solution. That's very creative. I'll give them that. It's very creative.
And then finishing off, the comment says, and if they get mad about that, well, you didn't want to quote, call them out again, end quote. But then I'm petty and kind of a jerk myself, not the a-hole. I love this commenter.
I love the sass.
A reply says, that's brilliant. You could be, quote, busy during their skint week. No one gets hurt and they'd have to grow up. That is true.
That's true.
Without saying anything, you put them in the position to take responsibility for their own finances.
Yeah. I think sometimes when I hear these stories, my first reaction is to jump to, how can you confront the issue and solve it? But the nice thing is sometimes you don't have to confront the person to solve it. Sometimes you can just remove yourself from the situation.
Actually, yeah, that's the situation you don't even have to be a part of. That was such a good comment.
Yeah.
I'm not
good comments
Let's
here.
see what the next one says. Ooh, okay. Someone with experience in this situation. Commenter says, I used to have a female acquaintance who often spent all of her money on junk food and DVDs. Then she would start pounding on my window unannounced to beg for money and food and claim I should feel sorry for her since she was diagnosed as being bipolar. I eventually told her to F off. Some people in my family felt I was being too hard on her, but she is never going to learn about personal responsibility until she faced real consequences for her actions. With that said, you are not the a-hole.
Wait, I'm sorry. They're worrying about like being too harsh. This person is banging on
your
window asking for money. I think they need to learn boundaries.
Right.
What?
Wow. Redditors have all the experiences.
I feel bad. Is this like an active issue amongst people?
Oh, I don't know. This might answer your question. Not the a-hole. I don't think it's correct to say that everyone has this friend. Many of us once had a friend like this who mooshed off people, and many of us no longer have this friend because who likes feeling like they are taking advantage of all the time?
I feel like this comment almost is like watching us and answered my question.
That is very true. I too also had a friend like this, and I too no longer have a friend like this. And overall choice, comments are saying not the a-hole, as we've seen. So that's the end of today's stories. Wow. Tell us what you guys think about today's stories in the comments below. We definitely went through a lot of different situations, different relationships with money, where money was an uncomfortable topic.
Yeah. And thanks for tuning in, guys. Let us know what you think. And don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe to us on all of our social platforms at Spotify, YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. We'll see you guys soon. Bye.